Hello again everyone. This video is late again, but it's for good reason. Check this out. I've created my own dungeon generation script. If I hit play again, you can see we got a completely new dungeon, which is awesome. But before we get to that, since last week I've also created a new weapon model, and I've just modeled the single wing first and then copy it onto the other sides. I've added some details on the wings and I've emptied out the inside of the weapon to put a sort of a big gem into it. It's just a sphere model, but it looks like a gem with a shader. And I've unwrapped the UVs, did some painting after the modeling. You can see got metal texture and all, and here's the results. You can see it under the character. Let me show you closer. There we go. Now this white circle is for the minimap. We also have a minimap now, which looks quite awesome again. And we have a nice trail renderer for the weapon, as you can see. Let me fix the scale here. And in the minimap we can see where we want to go in the dungeon. Since each dungeon is a new one, I thought it would be necessary to show a path, basically. So right in the middle there's always a treasure room, and the end room will be the boss room. I didn't make a boss or add the enemies yet. The enemies are quite complicated, so I'll leave it for next week's video. I will hopefully make a video about this dungeon generator, because it's kind of a simple code. I've checked out a video on YouTube from Chile, and I'll link his playlist to the top right. He has an awesome playlist about a game called Binding of Isaac. He creates a map generator, spawner, and all sorts of things in his playlist. It's awesome. You gotta check it out. My code is a lot more simpler than his. His is quite a professional code, I think, but this works and it's quite understandable. Even if you're new to Unity, I think you would be able to read this code here. It's just this, only these lines create this awesome, beautiful dungeon you can see right here. So what I basically did is create a room controller object with the room controller script on it. It has width and height value for the rooms. It doesn't create a room according to this. It just creates a grid layout according to the room width and heights that we choose, and then we create a prefab of the rooms, just like that. The code doesn't create the rooms, we have to do it manually. And other than that, we have a minimum and max amount of rooms, and each time we play, a random number is chosen in between, and we get a random number, which is the total rooms right here. See, I've chosen between 8 and 12, and it gave me 11 rooms. We have a direction list. The direction list is actually only 4 elements, which is like north, south, east and west of the last place room. I've written a small code right here. This code adds the last used direction into the list, so we get a much more linear dungeon. We didn't get a linear one right here, but if I play again, there we go. Because otherwise, if you comment that out, so save it, what we're gonna get is generally quite clumped up rooms that are all together, like this one, or even sometimes even more clumped up like that. And I didn't think this would be enjoyable, because since this is the last room and this is actually the boss room, and the character would just go to the boss room like that. So that's why the code is here. Since I use an aim trajectory system with a separate physics scene, I had to take a few extra steps, and one of them is the copy rooms to physics scene. So after we create the rooms, we copy them into the physics scene, and after that I use the navmesh from Unity, this navigation tool here, to create the navmesh agents for my enemies. And for that, Unity has like a beta test on a new navmesh component script group. I don't know what to call this, assets, I guess. And in here you got a few different choices that lets you bake the navmesh in runtime. This is in GitHub, and you can find this if you search for Unity navmesh components, and you'll find GitHub link for that. Basically, you add a navmesh surface to your main object, and this object creates a navmesh, bakes a navmesh surface for everything when you call it from the script, which would be here. You just say navmesh.build navmesh, and it just builds a navmesh over everything that has a render mesh, or you can choose a physics collider. And if you don't want something to have a navmesh, which is like my background plane here, it's just for background, the player will never walk on it, so you add a navmesh modifier script and you click ignore from build, which you can also do in code during runtime if you want. So if we go back to my script here, we choose a random number of rooms between our min and max rooms. Then we create a coordinate system. We spawn a room, a random room in each coordinates. I have currently 5 different rooms: a start room, a separate treasure room. The start room and treasure room are separate because I don't want to create a random room at the start point, which bugs the character. Right here in the code, where I create a room for each item in the coordinate list. For the first coordinate, I create a start room. For the halfway point, I create a treasure room. So every time I create a dungeon, there's a treasure room in the middle before going to the boss. It doesn't exactly end up in the middle always. As you can see, there are some separate rooms, or sometimes the rooms are just clumped together, even though I had that script I showed you before. But generally it's in the middle, and it should technically help you defeat the boss. My main idea here is to create a system kind of like a Diablo 3 Greater Rift system, where each time you complete a dungeon, the level will increase, your level will increase, and you will try to complete a higher level dungeon. And next week, hopefully, I will add some enemies, and this will start to be a quite playable game. I will also add some better graphics for the rooms, of course. I'll start creating my own enemy models, and I'm thinking about making the doors kinda smaller. By the way, the doors are just casting rays to the outside of the room like that, and if the ray hits another door, it just destroys both doors, so you get an open corridor. And if I want, I could probably set a room, a boss room, and control these doors to be locked or to open if something happens, like a bar filling each time you kill an enemy, and if you kill enough enemies will stop spawning and the boss room will be unlocked. I'll probably make something like that. So that's it for this week. Thanks a lot for watching, thank you for your support, and see you on the next video.